Awesome. Well, thanks for the intro, Johar. And Chris, thanks for coming. So for those of you that don't know, Chris is the co-creator of React Native, co-creator of Prettier, early at the React team, and he works at Facebook. So full stack. For those of you that don't know, my name is Omer. I host The Doc. It's a podcast, the culture podcast of SF. It's based out of the podcast studio over there. And my first question, before you were building React Native and Prettier, how did you get into programming in the first place?
Yeah, so I'm a big gamer, and so I think it was when I was 10 or something. I was playing at the time Warcraft 3, and one of the interesting things with Warcraft 3 is there's a map editor. And in practice, for the map editor, you could actually like build the maps, but you could actually start doing like actions and what's called like triggers. So like, oh, if a unit comes into this zone, then start moving it there. And there's a bunch of mods in Warcraft 3. Like one of the most famous one that ended up being its own game is Dota. And so in practice, you could do a lot of things. And the way it was is at the beginning, you would like use the like interface GUI to be able to like say, hey, if it goes there, like change things. And then it actually, when you looked behind the scenes, it actually outputted the real code using a programming language called JAS. This was like a proprietary programming language. But the interesting thing, I started learning how to actually use this programming language and like learn what a programming language was. And this is how I like started learning how to code.
So this was before YouTube, I'm guessing, was big.
Yes, this was before YouTube was big.
So how do you even learn the language in the first place?
So there was like a bunch of forums, like games forums, where you could actually like share things. And I was actually like working with Hubert, like part of Founder Inc., like on MMO Champion and SC2 Mapster and like a bunch of like websites like this that brought the community of like people interested in like modding the game.
Interesting. And so for those of you that don't know Hubert, if you could raise your hand. Hubert runs the capital arm of Founders Inc. And he started Curse Gaming back in like the 2000s before, I think 2010, right? Wow, 2004. So how did you meet Hubert in the first place?
Yeah. So like after Warcraft 3, like I was still in the Blizzard games and like they released World of Warcraft. And so this was during the alpha of the game. And so I started modding the UI of the game. And one of the things that I was working like part of a team that's built the like Cosmos UI, which was like the biggest like mod in the game. And the interesting thing about World of Warcraft is the game was like the default UI was such in a bad state that if you didn't have a mod like Cosmos, you just couldn't play.
Oh, wow.
And like it was like so bad. And so what happened is like every time they did a new patch, it basically broke all of the add-ons that we were working on. And like there was a meme in the community which was like patch day no play because the add-on wasn't working until we like spent a lot of time like fixing, like patching all of the like new version and everything so we could play. And so this was like around that time that I realized that Cosmos was basically like a bunch of add-ons that were all like piled up together. And I realized that like at some point, like we had like 50 or 60 add-ons and like we couldn't like just get all of the add-ons in the world. And so I started thinking, hey, we should like build an add-on database. And so remember I was 13 at the time, so like I didn't know like how to like do all of this. And I think I met Hubert at like World of Warcraft event like in Paris.
In Paris?
Yeah,
oh, wow.
And I met him and he was the owner of like the guild leader of a guild called Curse. And he wanted to do a website for the guild.
Okay.
And
you were 13.
I was 13.
Okay.
And he was, I don't know, 16, 17.
Oh, wow.
And the interesting thing about this is like he was like, oh yeah, this is an interesting idea. And like he started like recruiting like his friends and like finding a place in Paris and to build the actual thing. And I remember like the first months it was released, like the website was released, it got like 1 million page views, which was like insane. Wow. And then like the company like ended up like becoming big, and he got bought in by Twitch at some point. So yeah.
So how old were you when you were doing this?
13, but like he was like, oh, you should quit school, and I'm like, nope, I'm staying in school.
Wait, so what does the conversation with your parents look like? So you're working for a 17, 18-year-old.
Yeah.
telling you to quit out, like drop out of school.
Yeah, but this was like I was just doing on the side, like in the weekends, and I still was going to school. So my parents were like, yeah, whatever.
Gotcha. And so when you were kind of doing this alongside, did you know that
Yeah.
you wanted to go on to build other products, or were you, planning to take a different route?
I was like obsessed with World of Warcraft and this. So I was like not thinking about like creating a company, founder, like all of this.
Gotcha.
So I was more like, yeah, I want like I'm excited about this. I'm going to like build stuff for the community and everything. But yeah, it was fun and yeah.
For sure. And so you ended up going to college, I'm guessing after.
Yeah.
And what were you doing between going to college and eventually starting React Native?
Yeah, so basically, like from 13 to college, I ended up working so when I was a kid, not, but then when I went to college, like was actually pretty expensive, and so I actually ended up working like during evenings and weekends for Curse.
Oh wow.
And so and all of the internship that we have to do, I actually went. So at first it was in Paris and in Berlin, then Heidelberg in Germany, and then in the US in here. And I betrayed him. I actually went to Facebook right after school instead of Curse, but we're still friends, so I think it's good.
Nice. And so after college, you had your offer from Facebook, and you had an offer, I'm guessing, from Curse.
Yeah.
What was like the decision-making process in deciding to go to Facebook?
Do you want the honest answer?
Can we get the honest answer?
Yeah. So in practice, one of the things is like Curse was still like a small, scrappy thing. And in practice, like Facebook was like a big company and like with structure and everything. And like I was going to move like halfway across the world, like married my girlfriend and everything. And so I wanted to like have like more like big company
Makes
backing
sense.
and stability.
What year was this?
It was 2012.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. And then at what point in being part of Facebook did you decide to work on React? How did that even happen in the first place?
So for this, I think it was 6 months in. So I joined the photos team. And at this point, like was crazy. Like this was like the like I was the 8th people to join the photos team.
Oh wow.
And like this was already like the biggest photo sharing website in the world. And so like yeah, this was inside my boot camp. Like boot camp is like the first 3 months you're not allocated to any project, and you're like working on like some tasks like people are giving to you. And I was working on redesigning the photos page of the profile. And so this was like the 3rd most visited page, and it had like 2 billion page views a week.
Oh wow.
And I was like, okay, I'm just out of college, coming up from nowhere, like working on this. Like this is pretty cool. And I met this guy, Jordan Walk, who like gave me this pitch around like this new like JavaScript framework he was doing. And I remember like this meeting, like somebody like in the team said, hey, you should meet this guy. And he asked me like one question at the beginning. What is the hardest thing about front end like right now? And like I have literally like no idea. And in practice, what it told me was this is like updates. And so if you like, it was like a while ago, but if you remember at the time, like PHP was like the de facto like mental model of like how do we build websites. And the idea of PHP is you start like when somebody comes to your sites, like they go to some PHP endpoints, and like the PHP say, hey, this is the like fetch from the database, this is the HTML, and done. And then like this was the whole thing. There was no state, no life cycle, no nothing. But now if you look at the client side, now the client side apps, now you had to like add a mouse listener and like remove them, and you had to like, oh, some new data, like remove the thing from the DOM, put it there. Like this was the time where like jQuery was like the biggest thing in the world. And and this idea was like, let's reuse the PHP model, where you would basically like whenever something changes, you're just going to like write the render path. And the update path that used to involve like find the right DOM node and modify based on like what changed, now is like just rerun the render path, and then like flush everything. And React is going to make it fast enough. And so I actually like came out of this, oh my God, like this guy is crazy. And I didn't think about it for 2 weeks, but then I realized, okay, I think that like the model he has is going to work out if the perf is good enough. And so one thing I've done is, so when I was at Curse, I was working on like a guild, a way to find a guild for like like to play with. And this was like we had I think like 3,000 or 4,000 guilds. And I did like a client-side like application to be able to like instantly like put all of your search filters and like see like the guild that match what you have. And I spent a lot of time like hand optimizing like every single like interaction and everything. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to give React a try for this specific thing. And I did. And it was not as fast, but it was like in the same order of magnitude.
Gotcha.
And since then I was like, oh my God, like this is the best thing in the world. And I basically like started being the biggest fan and evangelizing React everywhere I could and everything.
And so React is open source, right?
Yes.
And so at that point, it's just anyone could build on top of React if they wanted to?
So at that point, React was not open source yet.
Okay.
And I pushed and I helped like open source and I helped like build a community and like organize meetups, organize like newsletter, organize like a bunch of things like this and the first 2 conferences. So like very similar to what you're doing here at F-Inc. So
that's really interesting because with Curse, a big part of it was obviously community building.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the reason dev tools tend to fail is because they can't get adoption fast enough. This was probably 2012, 13, so you didn't even have things like Beehive or a lot of the like social media platforms that exist today. What did it look like growing that like adoption, like early adoption community?
Yeah, so for this, like for React specifically, it was both Twitter, and it's still like very, very important for like this space. And the second part was IRC. And so we spinned up like an IRC channel. And I would basically be like H24, like replying to people, hey, this is like, tell me what cool stuff you've been doing. And one other thing I've done like in this is like one theory I have is people like this is the buzz aspect is like the value like people assigned to a project is based on like how many times they've heard about the project like in the near like term. And so one of the things I found is like people have some kind of number around like how many times do they hear a project is correlated to like how big or successful the project is. And so one of the things that I did to exploit this fact is like we had a blog on React, and what I did was to like post every single week and like blog post and like everything that's been happening in the community. And one other thing I've done is like on IRC or like anyone I could find that like did something interesting, I asked them and forced them to write a blog post about it.
Interesting.
And this way, like now there was like 5 blog posts or like 2 or 3 blog posts a week about React. And like, oh, now people think like, okay, that's probably like around like 1% of people writing a blog post. So that's probably like, I don't know, like 500 like people like using React. And in practice, no, there was 5 people using React, but I asked every single one of them to like write a blog post. And so now like it gave the illusion that it was bigger than it was.
Interesting.
And then like a year or 2 after, like it was, we didn't need like this kind of like bootstrapping, but this was like some of the early things.
So you would say like the biggest growth hacking was around blogs and Twitter?
Yes.
If you were to start that same like thought process again today with the tools that exist online, how would you grow a dev tool from 0?
Yeah. So I think like very similar, and so I've done something similar with Excalibur that you may have been using, whiteboarding. Yeah. So and this is like one of the things now, at least for me personally, I have like 50,000 people like following me on Twitter. And so now, like, this is my platform. Now, this is also going to be about you, like, which platform are you in, and like start like growing from there. So
interesting. So to take it back, you worked on React after you know the Photos team.
Yeah.
Where does React Native come in?
Yeah. So React Native was this was around like a few, like I think 6 months after or something. Like at the time, like if you remember, this was. Like where like mobile was really like starting to take off, and Facebook at the time was still like only a website. And the issue is like, oh, this was like mobile is an existential threat, and so now Mark Zuckerberg and like the whole company was like, we are going mobile first. And the way we've actually went mobile first was we basically like forced everybody to start writing like iOS and Android, and like people were like engineers were pissed because like the developer experience was like really, really bad. And especially since like Facebook had like probably like 1,000 engineers at that point, and like none of the tools provided by Apple or Google were like actually scaling for this. And so one of the things is like there's been a lot of like thinking about, okay, how can we do better? And so React was starting to take off at that time. And so like we did a hackathon with Jordan Walk and 2 other people around like, hey, can we actually get React to work on the phone? And so for this, one thing we done is like there was a camp hackathon, so like 3 days hackathon during the summer. And so we actually like made this idea of like, hey, running React to power like native controls on the client for iOS. And there was a prototype forum where we could showcase like our hacks. And we got like one of the 5 projects called out as interesting, and we got to present to Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, wow.
And so it was super cool to present. And then what happened like the next week is we basically did a roadshow, and we were invited to like talk to all of those VPs and directors and everything. I was like, what's going on, to showcase like the hacks we've done. And so this is like how like React Native started. Now in practice, my story is I was a chicken, and didn't like, it was like 1 year like coming into the company, like moving from France, and I didn't want to like leave the photos team to work on this new crazy thing. Like I'm like some self-preservation. And but 3 months after, the people that worked on React Native ended up like deciding to build the app they wanted to do in like back to native, and not build the actual like React Native, which is like what they've done. But looking at it, I was like, okay, this is like really like one of the biggest concerns at the time was like, can it be like fast enough, or like can it be smooth enough, and can it be like indistinguishable from native? And what they've proven to me, like I was convinced like, yep, like we can do it. And so now I was like, okay, I'm leaving the team, I'm switching and moving to like full-time on React Native. So
side tangent. So you pitched Mark Zuckerberg.
I guess so.
What was that like?
Super scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we basically spent one full day like rehearsing like our like 5 minutes like demo and pitch and everything. But yeah.
Interesting. And then how long after React Native did you start working on Prettier?
Long time ago. So I think it was 4 years. 4 years later.
4 years later.
Yeah.
What was the thought process, or like what made you start that?
So for Prettier, so I was in the React Native organization for a while, and at some point I was like, okay, I felt like I've done my thing, and I was running out of like, okay, what are the crazy next things? And so I started moving to an organization called like building an IDE based on top of Atom for the company. And one thing like semi-related is like way back when Go was first released, they also came up with like a tool called Go FMT. So this is like a formatter for the Go programming language. And one of the things that was like super like mind-blowing to me is that you could actually automatically like format codes, and you didn't have to like have lint rule that says like your code is not good. You could actually automate it. And so I remember like at school, my school in France, EPITA. This is like a computer science school. So if you have relatives in France, like this is a really good like computer science school. And we had this for every like code output you would produce. If there was a lint issue, and they wouldn't give us the linter, they would only give us like the rules. We would lose 2 points out of 20 for every single like lint issue that would happen. And so at the beginning, like everybody was at like minus 50, like those kind of things. But after like you started like really internalizing the lint rules, and I felt like this was a really good exercise, but in practice it didn't scale because like it was the school environment and everything. And so like my brain now is like forged. I'm never going to like myself do like an issue, but like as you're building companies and like new people coming into the field and everything, you cannot just like force them to like not make any issue. And so then I realized, oh, Prettier, like like GoFMT could solve this. But the issue is that it was for Go, and like they built the programming language with the formatter. And so now the question was, is this actually possible to do it on an existing programming language? And so far, like no one in the industry have been able to succeed at this. And I started to think, okay, maybe it's not possible. And like at Facebook, like one person started, Peter van der Werf, who's in Facebook, started building like a JavaScript pretty printer. And one person outside of Facebook, James Long, who used to work at Mozilla, also was working on one. And I knew about it, and it was like just before the winter break. And I was so excited because I felt like, oh, there's two people working on the JavaScript pretty printer, and I think it can actually solve this space. And so I basically spent the whole like winter break to create like integration tests, like to test it against like real code base, to like get a leaderboard around like, hey, what are all of the nodes in the AST that we can do? And at the end of the winter break, both of them had built a pretty printer that like I felt with more work could actually like work and could actually solve the issues of like formatting and all of the downstream effect that like it causes. And the issue is like both of them actually like said like, nope, I have a day job, like I cannot like just work on this. And I was like, no, like I don't want it to like fail again. And so I basically told my manager, I'm going to spend the next 6 months like working on this. So this was hard. Like my review this half wasn't like the best and everything, but like I was able to do it, and I was able to like make it like start the project, and yeah.
So you built Prettier while staying kind of at Facebook?
Yeah, but this is the thing is like I pitched Facebook, hey, we need to invest in like solving like the formatting issue. And I basically pitched them like, hey, like I'm going to provide you like a solution for this problem. And in practice, like it was open sourced, and like a lot of people from open source actually contributed. So I was full time on this, but like a lot more people over time like contributed. And but for the company, like the fact that it was open source, like they don't care. Like as soon as it's like solves like Facebook's problem, like
Makes sense. Makes sense. And so with all this experience you have building dev tools, I would imagine that if you were to start one tomorrow, you kind of have a roadmap.
No.
No.
So I think for me, like the thing about like something I'm like thinking a lot, and like probably like this crowd I don't really understand is like in the company builder mindset and everything. There's a lot of thinking around like, oh, we'll find a good team, we'll find a space, and we'll find something, and if it doesn't work, we'll pivot, and if it doesn't work, we'll pivot, and those kind of things. And for me, like I don't work like this. For me, I work like I don't want to solve anything until like, oh, I find like something that like I find a solution that's going to work. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm going to actually like build it and make it work and make it happen. And there's no like pivoting. Like if it doesn't work, then like I'm going to like know it's not going to work, and like, okay, I'm going to drop the idea and like not like keep pushing in the space, all those kind of things. So I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense. It makes sense. And so if tomorrow you decided you want to build some type of like AI assistant for coding, what is the initial? Are you trying to find the right team? Do you know who you'd reach out to? How would you test that? Is it built in public? Is it open source?
Yeah. So for this, what I would do is first is like convince myself that like it can work. And for this, usually what I try to do is to like look at what are all of the things in the past and all of the projects in the past that attempted to build this, and figure out like, is there one that actually succeeded, and if not, like why. And like for the chat assistant, like this is the space like Facebook was also like pushing it and everything. That like there's been a lot of people that tried, and so far like I haven't seen any that like really like worked and succeeded. And so if I like for your specific example, like I wouldn't go into this space because I'm not convinced that like I can like actually like succeed when everybody else like actually didn't.
Interesting.
And so this is my mindset is like I'm playing to win. Like this is the gamer kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is I'm not playing to like go and find like a space or anything. I'm playing because like, oh, if I'm going there, like I know I can like actually succeed. And if I'm not, like, yeah, I have my day job. I'm like pretty fine and everything. So
Interesting. That makes sense. And then from your time kind of at
Yeah.
Facebook, recently there's been a lot of memes going around on Twitter
yeah,
of like day in the life as a Facebook product manager. And they
Yeah.
just do not, like they just eat, they have like 2
Mm.
meetings, and that's it. So
Yeah.
what's it actually like working at Facebook?
yeah. So I wish this was this. No, I mean, I think in practice, the one thing that's super interesting at Facebook is like this is a big company that inside like there's basically like many different like billion-plus dollar company within. So for example, like in the startup, like I've been reading the startup and everything for a while, and like Craigslist is the like target to beat. Like everybody's trying to beat Craigslist, and in practice, like Facebook did it. So marketplace within Facebook actually beats like has more like user and everything than Craigslist in the US. And not only in the US, but like it is all over the world. So like this is just one thing like marketplace. But then if you look at the dev tool space, oh, we are building React. Like we're building like Flow, which is like a type checker for JavaScript. Like we're building React Native. We're building like yeah, Prettier and this kind of things. Like right now, I'm in a team that's managing like all of the like services. Like how do you deploy like C++ services and like pick a big number, and we probably have this in QPS happening and like all of the things that are happening. Before I was working on like perf and tool and reliability tooling for client-side apps. And so like Sentry, New Relic, Datadog, like we built this internally. So this is one of the things which is super interesting is if you like this kind of projects, like you can join Facebook and like work on one of those, and there's going to be like like some of the best people in the space that are going to be working in those teams.
Interesting.
And so this is like something like why I've been staying for like 10 plus years there is because like it feels like I can be in a startup while enjoying all the benefits of a big company and like actual like massive amount of impact and users and everything. So
is there any idea that would, pull at you hard enough to leave Facebook, raise $1 million, and just go for it?
We'll see.
Okay.
But the closest is Excalibur.
Okay.
So this is a whiteboarding tool I built like just before COVID. And in practice, during COVID, like everybody wanted like a replacement for a virtual whiteboard, like for a real whiteboard.
Right.
And people ended up like using Excalibur. And so now it has like 300,000 monthly active on the open source like version. And like a bunch of VCs were talking to me and say, hey, you should leave Facebook and start working on this. In practice, like I'm happy at Facebook, but we ended up creating a company for this. And so the main contributor was already working on a startup on something, but that wasn't going anywhere. And so we ended up like he ended up using Excalibur as the product. And so right now it's self-funded and it's profitable. And now we have, I think, 8 people working on it.
Oh, wow.
And it's growing like super quickly. So
that's amazing. And so I do want to open it up to questions to the audience. But before that, we have a list of rapid fire questions for you.
Go.
What's the best advice you've ever gotten in the space of building dev tools?
Build something that you actually use or solve a problem that you actually have.
And then what's the worst advice you've ever gotten?
I don't know. I haven't listened to it.
Gotcha. And then what IDE do you use?
So I use Sublime or VS Code.
Sublime or VS Code. Gotcha. You got a favorite book?
No, I don't read books.
On that note, does anyone have any questions?
Yes. That makes sense. So one of the things that's very interesting is ads is a really, really good revenue model. And so it's really good like in many factors. Like one, like as much as people say like they don't like ads and everything, this is something like in practice, if you put ads on like something, is going to like not disturb the actual like user experience too much, and like it's going to be a revenue stream for the like for the people creating it, and also the advertisers, like, and a lot of startups like needs to advertise to actually get in front of people, can now actually do that, like get benefits from this. And so this is like a very like good like revenue stream. And so if you're able to get like ads as a business model, this is good. The downside of this is like now we are at a point where like in order to get meaningful amount of revenue from ads, you need like a massive audience. And so if you don't have this, then it doesn't work. So in the DevTools world, so like I was working on Prettier, which is a JavaScript 3D printer. And honestly, I have no idea how to monetize this. And right now what we have is we have an open collective, and we got $80,000 on it, like people over the years. But this, like, if you consider like Prettier is being used by every single like JavaScript project in the ecosystem nowadays, like $80,000 is nothing. And I don't know about this. The thing that has been working really well for like DevTools is the SaaS like business model, where you actually like hosting the service, and you're like helping like with Excalibur, like, oh, you can like share like the whiteboards with your friends, or like Miro, or like Slack, all those kind of things. So this has been working well. The other one is the hosting. So like if you're using Next, you're probably hosted by Versal. And now like the way Versal works is like this is a hosting, like in practice, this is a hosting company. But what they do is they, like this is our business model, but what they do is they sell the experience of creating the thing. And it's very interesting because they are not selling you like bandwidth, they are selling you like seats. And so they use the SaaS pricing model instead of like the actual like, oh, you're using like 1 terabyte, I'm going to like pay you for X. And like this is a business model that works. But this is like especially like with open source, like there's a lot of like, this is tricky, but yeah.
All right, we'll take 2 more.
So context for me, like I was like 23, like the year before I like basically stopped school. I was in France, and so I had to like marry my girlfriend. I had to move like halfway across the world for Facebook. And like when I joined like 6 months later, I was at Disrupt.js, and Mark Zuckerberg actually came, and he said like HTML5 was the biggest mistake like the company has done. And so it was like, oh shit, like, did I actually fucked up because I was a front-end developer? Like, did I fucked up? Like, why did I actually like move halfway across the world and like bet everything here? Like, did I make a mistake? And now we're talking about like building like not a random project. We're talking about like building an entire like operating system that is competing with like iOS and Android from Apple and Google and everything. And like I was 23, like I mean, like this is an insane bet to take. And my wife was like, "Are you sure? Like, don't you want to work on this like super safe team that's like doing some business as usual thing?" So, but yeah, it took me like some time to convince myself. But at some point, I was like, "No, like this is." I convinced myself, like as I mentioned, like this is going to work. And so I basically like, yeah, worked like every evening, and like I was like monomaniac, like, yep, I'm going to make it work. Like, and like, as you can probably imagine, like within the company, like a lot of people didn't believe that this could work. So like, this was a very like us, like this small group of people against the world, but it's also like what's like made us bond, and like what was like really engaging and everything is like, oh, we like thought we could actually change the world. So
1 more question. No?
come on, somebody. Yeah. Yeah. So right now I'm playing Minecraft, and I have a challenge, like a CD challenge, which is to get like 5 stacks of every single item in the game. And so now I'm like at 95%. So yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much
Cool.
for the time.